The stars looked peaceful through the window of the ship. Commander Lisa Kane stood on the bridge and watched them shine in the darkness of space. Everything felt normal. Everything felt safe. She did not know that in a few minutes her whole life would change forever. Lisa had been in space for 3 years now. She was the captain of a small exploration ship called the Horizon's Edge. Her job was simple. She and her crew of 45 people traveled through space and made maps of new routes. These routes would help other human ships travel safely through the galaxy. Humans were new to space travel. Only 3 years ago they had joined the Galactic Council. This was a big group that had many different alien species in it. Some aliens were friendly. Some were not. But all of them thought humans were weak. Lisa knew this was true. She had been to many meetings with aliens. She had seen how they looked at humans. They saw people who were small and soft. They saw creatures that could break easily. The aliens had thick skin or strong armor or powerful muscles. Humans had none of these things. The Kravasi were the worst. They were tall aliens that looked like giant lizards. They stood 8 feet tall and had scales all over their bodies. Their teeth were sharp. Their claws were deadly. They loved to fight and they loved to win. At every meeting, the Kravasi would laugh at humans. They would make jokes about how weak people were. They would say that humans should stay on their home planet. They would say that space was for strong species only. Lisa tried not to think about this as she worked. Her crew was good at their jobs. They worked hard and they worked well together. On the bridge, Lieutenant Danny Price sat at the controls. He was checking the ship's systems. Everything looked good. Then the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed all over the bridge. The computer showed 6 large ships appearing out of nowhere. They surrounded the Horizon's Edge on all sides. Lisa felt her heart start to beat faster. She looked at the screen and saw the symbol on the ship's Kravasi warships. Danny's hands moved fast across his controls. He tried to turn on the shields. But before he could finish, bright green light shot out from the enemy ships. The weapons hit the Horizon's Edge hard. The ship shook like it was in an earthquake. Lisa grabbed her chair to stay standing. Around her, people were thrown to the floor. Computers exploded in showers of sparks. The lights flickered and went dark. Emergency lights came on, painting everything red. More explosions came from below. Lisa could hear metal screaming as it tore apart. She could hear people crying out in pain. The gravity stopped working right. Things started to float in the air. A face appeared on the main screen. It was a Kravasi general. His name was Vexthor. Lisa had seen him before at council meetings. He was one of the ones who laughed the loudest at humans. Behind him, other Kravasi soldiers were laughing too. They pointed at the humans and made fun of them. "Your ship is broken now, human," Vexthor said. His voice was rough and mean. "Your shields are like paper. Your weapons are toys. Your bodies are so weak. The council will hear that this was an accident. Nobody will ask questions. Nobody cares about humans." Lisa forced herself to stay calm. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "Why are you doing this?" "We have permission to be here," Vexthor laughed. It was a horrible sound. "Because we can. Because someone needs to teach your kind a lesson. You are prey animals. You pretend to be hunters, but you are not. You do not belong in space." More green fire hit the ship. This time it was worse. Lisa heard a huge explosion from the engine room. The ship started to spin. People were screaming now. The air was getting hard to breathe. Smoke filled the bridge. Lisa knew what she had to do. All crew members leave the ship now. Get to the escape pods. This is an emergency. Her crew moved fast even though they were scared. They had practiced for this many times. But nobody had thought it would really happen. They ran for the doors. They ran for safety. They ran to live. Lisa started to run too. She needed to get to the escape pods. But the ship was falling apart so fast. She ran down a hallway. Behind her, Danny was following. He had blood running down his face, but he was still moving. Then the biggest explosion came. It was like the whole ship was being torn in half. The blast picked Lisa up and threw her against the wall. She hit hard, very hard. She felt something break in her back. It made a sound like a tree branch snapping. Pain shot through her body. Then her legs stopped working. She could not feel them anymore. She tried to move, but nothing happened. She fell to the floor and could not get up. Through the smoke, she saw Danny crawling toward her. He was trying to reach her. He was trying to help. But then the wall broke open. Space was on the other side. The air rushed out in a terrible wind. Lisa felt herself being pulled toward the hole. She could not stop it. She could not hold on. Her emergency suit turned on automatically. It covered her body and her face, but she was already flying out into space. The last thing she saw was Danny reaching for her. Then she was out in the dark. She was floating away from her ship. She was floating away from everything. Around her, pieces of the horizon's edge tumbled through space. Some pieces were big, some were small, and some pieces were bodies. Her crew, her friends, all dead now, all floating in the darkness like broken toys. Lisa tried to move her legs again. Nothing. The suit's computer showed her what was wrong. Her spine was broken. She was paralyzed from the waist down. The suit was keeping her alive, but it could not fix this. The computer said she had maybe 6 hours before her body would shut down completely. 6 hours to live. She looked around. The Kravasi ships were still there. They were flying around the broken pieces of her ship. They were looking at what they had done. They were probably taking pictures. They were probably laughing. Lisa felt cold. Not from space. The suit kept her warm. She felt cold inside. Cold from fear. Cold from knowing she was going to die. Cold from being so helpless. But under the cold, something else was starting to grow. Something hot. Something angry. The Kravasi had killed her crew for no reason. They had destroyed her ship just to prove they could. They had broken her body and left her to die in space, and they thought nobody would care. They thought nobody would stop them. They thought humans were too weak to fight back. Lisa floated in the darkness and felt that anger grow. She did not know it yet, but this anger would change everything. It would turn her from a victim into something the galaxy had never seen before. But first, she had to survive the next 6 hours. Lisa woke up in terrible pain. Her whole body hurt. But the worst part was her legs. She could not feel them at all. It was like they were not even there anymore. She tried to move them, but nothing happened. They just hung there in space, useless. Her suit was still working. It was pumping medicine into her blood. It was keeping her alive. But it could not fix her broken spine. The suit's computer kept showing her numbers. Bad numbers. She had about 5 hours left before her organs would start to fail. Through the clear front of her helmet, she could see everything. Pieces of her ship were everywhere. They tumbled slowly through space. Some pieces were still burning. Some had stopped. And floating among all the metal were the bodies of her crew. She saw Danny floating past. His eyes were closed. His suit had not turned on in time. He was dead. The person who had tried to save her was gone. Lisa felt tears in her eyes, but she could not wipe them away. The helmet was in the way. The Kravasi ships were moving through the debris field. Their crews were coming out in small pods. They were picking up pieces of the horizon's edge. They were studying what they had destroyed. They looked like vultures picking at a dead animal. Then something grabbed her. A blue beam of light locked onto her suit. It pulled her toward one of the Kravasi ships. Lisa tried to fight it. She tried to use her suit's thrusters to fly away, but they were damaged. They sputtered and died. Fuel leaked out into space. The beam pulled her inside the enemy ship. They dropped her on a hard metal floor. Lisa could not stand up. Her legs would not work. She just lay there, helpless. Kravasi soldiers walked over to her. There were about 12 of them. They were huge. Even lying down, Lisa could see how tall they were. Their armor made them look even bigger. They stood around her in a circle and looked down at her broken body. One of them laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. Look at this one. Still breathing. Barely. These humans break so easily. General Vexthor pushed through the crowd. He looked down at Lisa with cold eyes. His mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing all his sharp teeth. So the commander survived. How interesting. But not for long, I think. He lifted his foot and pressed it down on Lisa's back, right where her spine was broken. The pain was so bad that Lisa screamed. She could not help it. The sound filled her helmet. The Kravasi laughed louder. This is what happens when prey tries to fly among the stars, Vexthor said to his soldiers. They break. They cry, they die. Take scans of this one. When we go back to the council, I want everyone to see how weak humans really are. A soldier pointed a small device at Lisa. It made a humming sound as it scanned her body. Lisa could see a screen nearby showing all her injuries in detail. Broken spine, damaged organs, internal bleeding, multiple fractures. The list went on and on. Her body had become a list of failures. A list that proved what the Kravasi already believed. That humans were fragile. That humans were weak. That humans did not belong in space. Should we kill it now? One soldier asked. It will die soon anyway. Bexthor thought for a moment. His clawed hand scratched at his chin. Then he shook his head. No. Throw it back into space. Let it float with the rest of the debris. Let it watch as we destroy any other human ships we find in this sector. Let the last thing it sees be proof of how powerless its kind truly is. Two soldiers grabbed Lisa and dragged her back to the airlock. They did not care that they were hurting her more. They threw her out into space like she was garbage. This time they did not even use the tractor beam. They just pushed her out and let her float away. Lisa tumbled through the darkness. She spun slowly, seeing the Kravasi ships one moment and empty space the next. Her suit was making warning sounds now. The medical systems were working as hard as they could, but it was not enough. She had maybe 4 hours left, 4 hours until she died. The pain was getting worse, or maybe she was just getting used to it. Everything hurt so much that it was hard to tell the difference anymore. But through the pain, through the fear, Lisa felt something else growing stronger. Rage. Pure, burning rage. The Kravasi had killed her crew for no reason. They had destroyed her ship just to make a point. They had broken her body and laughed about it, and they were going to get away with it. They would go back to the council and tell lies. Nobody would question them. Nobody would care because humans were weak, because humans did not matter, because humans were just prey. Lisa's hand moved to the emergency beacon on her suit. It was damaged, but it still worked. She pressed the button. A signal shot out into space. It would take days to reach the nearest human base. Days she did not have. But maybe someone would find the signal later. Maybe someone would know what happened here. Maybe the truth would come out. Eventually, as she floated, Lisa's eyes caught something. A large piece of debris was drifting nearby. It was bigger than the others. It had writing on it that she recognized. It was from the engineering section of her ship. More than that, it had a special symbol on it. A symbol that made her heart beat faster even through all the pain. It was the symbol for the quantum drive. The quantum drive was humanity's biggest secret. It was new technology that was supposed to let ships travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. It worked by tapping into something called quantum energy. Lisa did not understand all the science. But she knew it was powerful. She also knew it was dangerous. Every test of the quantum drive had failed. The energy was too strong, too unstable. The drive would explode and destroy everything around it. That was why the Horizon's Edge had been testing it in deep space, far away from any planets or stations. Lisa looked at the piece of debris. She could see lights flickering on it. The containment chamber was still working. The quantum core was still active, but the damage from the battle had made it unstable. Very unstable. She pulled up the readings on her suit's computer. The numbers made her breath catch in her throat. The quantum field was collapsing. In a few hours, maybe less, it would explode. The blast would be huge. It would tear a hole in space itself. And the Kravasi fleet was less than 50,000 kilometers away. Lisa stared at the quantum drive debris. Then she looked at her suit's computer showing how much time she had left. 3 hours, maybe 4, not enough time to be rescued. Not enough time to get away. Just enough time to make a choice. She could let the quantum drive explode on its own. It would destroy the Kravasi fleet. But it might also destroy any evidence of what they had done. The council might never know the truth. Or she could try something else. Something crazy. Something that would probably kill her even faster than waiting. Lisa started using her suit's thrusters. The broken ones sputtered, but they still had a little bit of power. Very slowly, very painfully, she began to move toward the quantum drive debris. She did not know if what she was planning would work. She did not know if it was even possible. But she knew one thing for certain. She was done being helpless. She was done being prey. If she was going to die, she was going to die fighting. And maybe, just maybe, she would take the monsters with her. It took Lisa almost an hour to reach the quantum drive debris. Every movement hurt. Her broken body screamed at her to stop, but she kept pushing forward. Her suit's thrusters were almost dead now. They coughed and sputtered. But they got her there. She grabbed onto the twisted metal with her hands. Her legs hung uselessly below her. She pulled herself along the debris until she found what she was looking for. The control panel for the quantum drive. The panel was cracked, but it still worked. Lights blinked on and off. Numbers scrolled across a small screen. Lisa read them and felt her stomach drop. The quantum field was even more unstable than she thought. The drive would explode in less than 3 hours. 3 hours. That was about the same amount of time she had left to live. The universe had a dark sense of humor. Lisa looked at the controls. She knew what they did. Every senior officer had been trained on the quantum drive. They had to know how to use it in case of emergencies. They also had to know how to destroy it if things went wrong. There were protocols. Emergency codes that could trigger a quantum cascade. It would turn the drive into a weapon. A massive bomb that would tear apart space itself. The explosion would be so big that it would be seen from light years away. Lisa's fingers moved over the control panel. She could do it right now. She could enter the codes. The drive would explode and take the Kravasi fleet with it. Vexthor and all his soldiers would die. They would pay for what they did. But then she saw something else on the control panel. Another system. One she had forgotten about. The medical interface. The quantum drive had a special feature built into it. Scientists had thought they could use quantum energy to heal people. The idea was to use quantum entanglement to repair damaged cells, to fix injuries at the molecular level. It had never been tested on a living person. The risk was too high. The quantum energy might heal someone, or it might tear them apart atom by atom. Nobody knew for sure, so they had never tried it. But Lisa was dying anyway. She looked at the weapon controls. Then she looked at the medical interface. 2 choices. Both dangerous. Both probably fatal. If she triggered the weapon, the Kravasi would die. But so would she. And maybe the evidence would be destroyed. Maybe the Council would never know what really happened. The Kravasi Empire might get away with it after all. If she used the medical interface, she might survive. Or she might die instantly. And if it killed her, the Kravasi would be safe. They would continue hunting human ships. They would keep killing people. And nobody would stop them. Lisa closed her eyes. She thought about her crew. She thought about Danny reaching for her as the ship came apart. She thought about all the people who had died because the Kravasi thought humans were weak. She thought about what would happen if nobody fought back. If nobody stood up to the bullies of the galaxy, more humans would die. More ships would be destroyed. And the Kravasi would laugh about it, unless someone showed them that humans could be dangerous too. Lisa opened her eyes. She made her choice. Her hand moved to the medical interface. She pressed the activation button. For a second, nothing happened. Then the quantum drive began to hum. The sound got louder and louder. Energy built up inside the containment chamber. It glowed brighter and brighter until it was like looking at a small sun. Then that energy shot into Lisa. Pain exploded through her body. But this was different from the pain of her injuries. This was pain in every cell, every atom. Every tiny piece of her was being torn apart and put back together at the same time. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her mouth was open, but she was in space. There was no air to carry her voice. She could only suffer in silence as the quantum energy ripped through her. She felt her body breaking down. Her molecules were dancing. Some were here, some were somewhere else. She existed in multiple places at once. She was alive and dead, whole and broken. Everything and nothing. It felt like it lasted forever. But it was probably only a few seconds. Then as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Lisa gasped, or tried to. She was still in space, so she could not breathe. But her body tried anyway. Her lungs moved. Her heart pounded, and her legs twitched, her legs moved. Lisa looked down at them in shock. She tried to move her left foot. It moved. She tried her right foot. It moved too. Very slowly, like they were remembering how her legs began to work again. The pain in her spine was gone. All the pain was gone. Lisa checked her suit's medical display. The broken spine was fixed. The internal bleeding had stopped. The damaged organs were healed. Everything that had been broken was whole again. But that was not all. Lisa could feel something new, something strange. The quantum energy had not just healed her. It had changed her. She could feel the space around her in a new way. She could sense the quantum fields that held everything together. The fabric of reality itself was visible to her now. Not with her eyes. With something deeper. With a sense she did not have a name for. She reached out with her hand and the debris around her responded. A piece of metal bent toward her even though she was not touching it. She was controlling it with the quantum energy. Moving it with her mind, Lisa stared at her hands. They looked normal, but they were glowing slightly. A soft blue light that pulsed with her heartbeat. The quantum energy had bonded with her. She was entangled with space-time itself now. She did not understand what had happened to her. She did not know how this was possible. But she knew one thing for certain. She was not the same person who had been thrown into space to die. She was something new, something powerful, something the Kravasi had accidentally created when they broke her body and mocked her weakness. Lisa looked toward the Kravasi fleet. They were still there, still picking through the debris, still laughing about what they had done. They thought they had won. They thought the last human was dead or dying. They were wrong. Lisa reached out with her new senses. She could feel the quantum signatures of the enemy ships. She could see how their shields worked, how their engines burned, how every piece of them was held together by forces she could now manipulate, and she could pull them apart. The rage that had been building inside her since the attack flared up like a fire. But now it was not the rage of a helpless victim. It was the rage of a predator, a hunter who had been wounded but had survived. The Kravasi wanted to teach humans a lesson. They wanted to show everyone that humans were prey, that humans were weak, that humans did not belong in space. Lisa was about to teach them a very different lesson. She pushed off from the debris. But she did not use her thrusters this time. She used the quantum energy. Space itself bent around her. She moved faster than should have been possible. One moment she was by the quantum drive. The next moment she was racing toward the nearest Kravasi ship. It was time to show them what happened when you broke a human and left them alive. It was time to show them what prey looked like when it evolved into a predator. It was time for the Kravasi to learn fear. Lisa moved through space like a ghost. The quantum energy carried her forward faster than any ship's engines could. She did not need thrusters anymore. She just thought about where she wanted to go, and space itself helped her get there. The first Kravasi ship never saw her coming. It was a small destroyer on the edge of their formation. The crew inside were probably still laughing about the dead humans. They felt safe, protected by their thick armor and strong shields. They were wrong about that too. Lisa reached out with her mind. She could see the ship's quantum structure. Everything was made of tiny particles held together by forces. Those forces were like strings, and Lisa could now pull on those strings. She pulled. The ship's shields flickered and died. The harmonics that kept them stable were thrown into chaos. Then the hull began to shake. The metal vibrated at frequencies that should not have been possible. The molecular bonds holding everything together started to break. In less than 10 seconds, the destroyer tore itself apart. It did not explode. It just came undone, like someone had taken all the pieces and scattered them across space. The crew inside never had time to understand what was happening. They were alive one moment, gone the next. The other Kravasi ships noticed. Alarms started screaming on their bridges. The captain shouted orders. Sensors searched for the enemy, but they found nothing. No weapons fire, no missiles, no ships, just empty space. And then another ship started to come apart. Lisa did not wait. She moved to the next target. This one was a cruiser, bigger than the destroyer, more crew, more weapons, but it made no difference. She reached past the armor and the shields. She touched the quantum field of the fusion reactor that powered the ship. The containment field collapsed. The fusion reaction went wild. The reactor exploded in a blast of white light that lit up space like a miniature sun. When the light faded, there was nothing left but glowing debris. Now panic spread through the Kravasi fleet. Their weapons fired in all directions. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds shot through empty space. They were trying to hit an enemy they could not see, an enemy they did not understand. Lisa watched the weapons fire pass harmlessly around her. She could see them coming before they got close. She could feel the quantum wake they left in space. It was easy to avoid them. She just slipped between the gaps in reality. A third ship. She reached out and twisted its power core. The ship went dark as all its systems failed at once. Then the life support stopped working. The crew inside would suffocate slowly in the dark. It was a cruel way to die, but Lisa felt no mercy. They had shown no mercy to her crew, a fourth ship. This time she simply made the hull disappear. The atoms that made up the metal scattered across light years in an instant. The crew were exposed to the vacuum of space. Their screams died before they could make a sound. Lisa could have destroyed all 6 ships at once. She had the power. She could reach out and tear them all apart simultaneously, but she did not. She wanted them to be afraid. She wanted them to watch their companions die. She wanted them to feel helpless. She wanted them to know what it felt like to be prey. Only 2 ships remained now. One of them was trying to run. Its engines burned at full power as it tried to escape, but it was too slow. Lisa caught up to it in seconds. She reached into the engine core and pulled. The ship's entire rear section came off. It tumbled through space, leaking air and bodies. That left one ship. The flagship. Vexthor's ship. Lisa floated in space and looked at it. The ship was trying to power up its weapons, trying to lock onto her, but their sensors could not track her properly. She existed partially in quantum superposition now. She was here and not here at the same time. She could destroy this ship too. She could kill Vexthor and every soldier inside. It would be easy. Part of her wanted to. The part that remembered Danny's face. The part that remembered her crew floating dead in space. But another part of her, the part that was still Commander Lisa Kane, and not just a weapon of vengeance, had a different idea. She needed witnesses. She needed someone to go back and tell the story. She needed the galaxy to know what had happened here. Lisa moved toward the flagship, not to destroy it. To give it a message, she appeared on their view screen. She did not hack their systems. She did not need to. She simply projected herself using quantum entanglement. Her image appeared on every screen on the ship at once. The Kravasi soldiers stared at her. Their eyes went wide. Their mouths opened in shock. Because they recognized her face. It was the same face they had scanned. The same broken body they had mocked. The same helpless human they had thrown into space to die. But she was not broken anymore. She floated in space surrounded by blue quantum energy. Her eyes glowed with power. The vacuum around her bent and twisted in impossible ways. She looked like a goddess. Or a demon. On the bridge, General Vexthor stood frozen. All his arrogance was gone. All his cruelty had turned to fear. His hands gripped his command chair so hard his claws left marks in the metal. "You called us weak," Lisa said. Her voice came through their communication systems. It echoed through every corridor of the ship. "You called us fragile. You laughed at our broken bodies. You said we had no place among the stars." She gestured toward the debris of the destroyed ships. The wreckage floated all around them. 5 ships gone. Hundreds of Kravasi dead. "You were wrong." Vexthor tried to speak, but only a croak came out. His warriors, the ones who had laughed at Lisa's pain, now stood paralyzed with terror. One of them raised his weapon, but Vexthor knocked it aside. Even he could see how useless it was. "Yes, humans break easily," Lisa continued. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but that was somehow more terrifying than anger. "You were right about that. We shatter and bleed and die. But you forgot something important. Sometimes when we break, we do not stay broken. Sometimes we become something new, something stronger, something you should have feared." She moved closer to the flagship. Her quantum energy flared brighter. The ship's shields, designed to stop weapons that could level planets, meant nothing to her. She passed through them like they were not even there. "I could destroy you right now," she said. "I could tear every atom of your ship apart. It would be as easy as breathing. As easy as you found it to murder my crew. But I am not going to do that." Confusion crossed the faces of the Kravasi. Why would she spare them? They had shown her no mercy. They deserve none. "I want you to live," Lisa said. "I want you to go back to your empire. I want you to tell them what happened here. Tell them you attacked a human ship. Tell them you murdered unarmed explorers. Tell them you laughed at our weakness." She paused. The quantum energy around her pulsed like a heartbeat. And then tell them what that weakness became. Lisa reached out one more time. But she did not destroy the ship. Instead, she marked it. She left a quantum signature on every piece of the flagship, a mark that would be visible to any sensor in the galaxy. A mark that would tell the story of what happened here. "Everyone will know what you did," she said. "The Council, your enemies, your allies. This mark will tell them how the mighty Kravasi attacked defenseless humans and were destroyed by one survivor. You wanted to make an example of us. You succeeded, just not the way you planned." Vexthor finally found his voice. It shook with fear. "What are you?" Lisa smiled. It was not a kind smile. I am the answer to a question. The question every species in this galaxy should ask before they attack humanity. What happens when you break us and we refuse to stay broken? She began to fade. Her quantum form became transparent as she prepared to move through space-time. Go home, General. Tell your story, and pray that no one else is stupid enough to test human weakness again. Then she was gone. She vanished in a pulse of blue light that rippled across space like waves on water. The Kravasi flagship turned and fled. Behind it, the debris field of 5 destroyed ships hung in space. A monument to the price of cruelty. A warning to anyone who thought humans were easy prey. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, Lisa Kane floated. Changed, powerful, no longer the broken victim they had mocked. She had become something new, something the galaxy would learn to respect or fear. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every species knew about what had happened in the outer rim. The quantum signatures from the battle were impossible to hide. They lit up sensors from one side of known space to the other. Scientists studied the data and could not believe what they were seeing. 5 Kravasi warships had been destroyed, but not by weapons, not by explosions. They had simply been torn apart at the molecular level. The energy signatures showed something that should not have been possible. Someone had weaponized quantum mechanics. The Kravasi Empire tried to control the story. They said it was an accident, a reactor malfunction, but the quantum mark Lisa had left on the surviving flagship told a different tale. Everyone could read it. Everyone knew the truth. The Kravasi had attacked a human exploration ship without cause. They had murdered the crew. And then one survivor had destroyed 5 of their warships single-handedly. The Galactic Council demanded an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Council chamber. It was a massive room with seats arranged in a circle. At the center was a platform where people could speak. Lisa stood on that platform 3 weeks after the battle. She had spent those weeks learning to control her new abilities, learning to hide the quantum energy that now flowed through her. To most sensors, she looked like a normal human now. But anyone with sensitive enough equipment could feel the power lurking beneath the surface. She wore her uniform, the one she had been wearing when the attack happened. It had been torn and burned, but she had kept it. It was a reminder of what had happened, of what she had lost. Around her. Hundreds of aliens watched. Some were curious. Some were afraid. All of them were paying attention. This was the human who had destroyed 5 warships. The one who had become something new. Lisa told her story. She spoke calmly and clearly. She told them about the Horizon's Edge and her crew. She told them about the unprovoked attack, about General Vexthor and his soldiers laughing as they destroyed her ship, about being thrown into space with a broken spine. She did not tell them everything about what happened next. She did not explain exactly how the quantum drive had changed her. Some secrets were better kept. But she told them enough. She told them that she had survived, that she had fought back, that she had made sure the truth could not be hidden. When she finished speaking, the chamber was silent. Nobody knew what to say. Then the Kravasi representative stood up. He was not Vexthor. The general had been stripped of his rank and sent home in disgrace. This was someone else, someone who looked ashamed. The Kravasi Empire apologizes, he said. His voice was stiff but sincere. What General Vexthor did was wrong. It violated our laws and the laws of this council. We take full responsibility. We will pay compensation to the families of those who died, and we will accept whatever punishment the council decides. Other species began to speak. Some demanded harsh punishment for the Kravasi. Others talked about new laws to prevent this from happening again. But Lisa noticed something. The way they talked had changed. Before, when they spoke about humans, there had been a certain tone. Dismissive, condescending, like talking about children. That tone was gone now. Now they spoke with respect or fear, maybe both. The council voted on the matter. The Kravasi would pay heavy fines. They would have observers placed on all their military ships. They would be banned from certain sectors for 10 years. It was not enough to bring back the dead, but it was something. More importantly, it sent a message. Attack humans and there would be consequences. Real consequences. After the meeting, Lisa walked through the halls of the council building. Other representatives saw her coming and moved aside. Some nodded respectfully. Some just stared. A few looked away quickly like they were afraid to make eye contact. Lisa understood. She had become a symbol, not just of human survival but of human potential. She was proof that the weak species everyone had dismissed could become dangerous when pushed too far. A human diplomat named Kate Morris caught up with her. Kate was young and nervous. She had only been with the diplomatic corps for a year. "Commander Kane," she said, "the Earth government wants to know what your plans are. Will you stay with the military, or will you work with us here at the council?" Lisa shook her head. "Neither. I am going back to space. There is still work to do out there. Routes to map, dangers to watch for, and someone needs to make sure this never happens again." Kate looked worried. "But Commander, you cannot do that alone. You need a ship. A crew, support." Lisa smiled slightly. "I do not need a ship anymore, and I will not be alone. There are other humans out there. Explorers and traders and settlers. I will watch over them. Make sure they are safe." She started to walk away, but Kate called after her. "What should we tell people? When they ask about you, what should we say?" Lisa paused and looked back. "Tell them the truth. Tell them that humans can be broken. But when we are, we sometimes become something stronger, something the galaxy was not ready for." She left the council building and looked up at the stars. There were so many of them, billions upon billions, and humans were just starting to explore them. There would be more dangers out there. More species who thought humans were weak. More people who needed to learn the same lesson the Krovasi had learned. Lisa closed her eyes and felt the quantum fields around her. She could sense ships moving through space. Human ships. Her people. Her responsibility now. She had not asked for this power. She had not wanted to become what she was. But now that she had it, she would use it. She would be the guardian that humanity needed, the hidden protector watching from the shadows. And if anyone tried to hurt her people again, they would learn the same lesson. They would learn that breaking a human was easy, but making sure they stayed broken was impossible, because humans had something that other species did not fully understand. They had the ability to adapt, to survive, to turn their greatest weakness into their most terrifying strength. Lisa opened her eyes. The quantum energy flared around her for just a moment. Then she stepped forward and disappeared. She moved through space-time itself, traveling faster than light, heading back out into the dark, back where she belonged, back where she was needed. The people on the street where she had been standing blinked in confusion. Had there been someone there a moment ago? They were not sure. Maybe it was just a trick of the light. But high above them, in orbit around the planet, every sensor suddenly detected a pulse of quantum energy. It moved away from the planet at impossible speed. It traveled out into deep space, and then it was gone. Scientists would study that pulse for years. They would try to understand it, to replicate it. But they never could, because what Lisa had become was unique. A one-time accident created by desperation and rage and the quantum forces at the heart of reality. Or maybe it was not an accident at all. Maybe the universe had decided that humanity needed a champion, someone to prove that they belonged among the stars, someone to show that weakness and strength were not opposites but two sides of the same coin. Whatever the reason, Lisa Kane was out there now, watching, waiting, ready to respond if anyone threatened her people again. And across the galaxy, species that had once laughed at human weakness now looked over their shoulders. They told stories about the ghost ship that appeared when humans were in danger, about the quantum warrior who could tear apart fleets with a thought. Some said the stories were exaggerated, that one human could not possibly be that powerful, but others remembered the destroyed Krovasi ships. They remembered the quantum signatures that should not have been possible, and they wondered, was she real? Was she still out there? And what would happen if they ever encountered her themselves? Most decided they did not want to find out. Humanity's reputation had changed. They were no longer seen as the weak newcomers. They were the species that could turn tragedy into triumph, the ones who refused to stay down no matter how hard you hit them. And somewhere among the stars, Lisa Kane smiled. The galaxy had learned its lesson, not perfectly, not completely, but enough to give humanity a chance, and that was all she had ever wanted. 2 years passed since the battle in the Outer Rim. Life in the galaxy had changed in subtle ways. Human ships traveled more freely now. The routes that Lisa and her crew had been mapping were being used by traders and explorers. Humanity was expanding its reach among the stars. Nobody attacked those ships. Not the Krovasi, not anyone else. There were no more unfortunate accidents, no more mysterious disappearances. Other species gave human vessels a wide berth. They were polite, respectful, sometimes even friendly, but there was always a hint of fear in their eyes, a question they were too afraid to ask out loud. Is she watching? Is she nearby? What would happen if we threatened these humans? Most decided not to find out. On Earth, people told stories about Commander Lisa Kane. Some said she had died a hero. Others said she was still out there, transformed into something beyond human. The government neither confirmed nor denied anything. They just smiled mysteriously when reporters asked questions. The truth was that nobody really knew where Lisa was. She appeared sometimes when human ships were in danger, a flicker of blue light, a pulse of quantum energy, and suddenly the threat would be gone. Pirates would flee. Hostile aliens would retreat. Problems would solve themselves. The crews who were saved would try to thank her, but she was always gone before they could. Like a guardian angel who did not want recognition, who just wanted to keep people safe. Captain Ryan Foster commanded a cargo ship called the Morning Star. He was carrying medical supplies to a colony on the edge of human space. The route was supposed to be safe. But space was full of surprises. 3 pirate ships appeared out of nowhere. They were not Crevassi. They were a mix of different species. Criminals who preyed on weaker vessels. They surrounded the Morning Star and demanded the cargo. Ryan tried to negotiate. He tried to explain that the medicine was for sick colonists, that people would die without it. The pirates did not care. They just laughed and powered up their weapons. Then the blue light came. It appeared between the Morning Star and the pirate ships. Just a flicker at first. Then it grew brighter. The pirates' sensors went crazy. They detected energy readings that should not have been possible, power levels that exceeded anything their ships could generate. The light took shape. It became a human figure floating in space, a woman surrounded by quantum energy. Her face was hard to see clearly through the glow. But Ryan knew who it was. Everyone knew. "Leave," Lisa said. Her voice came through on all frequencies. "Leave now or learn what happened to the Crevassi." The pirates did not need to be told twice. Their ships turned and fled at maximum speed. They did not fire a single shot. They just ran like scared animals. The blue light faded. For a moment, Ryan thought he saw her face clearly. She looked tired. Not physically tired, but tired in a deeper way, like carrying a heavy burden for too long. Then she was gone. Ryan sent a message into the empty space where she had been. "Thank you. We will get the medicine to the colony. People will live because of you." He did not know if she heard him, but he hoped she did. He hoped she knew that her sacrifice had meaning, that the people she saved were grateful. Far away in the space between stars, Lisa floated in the darkness. She had heard Ryan's message. She always heard them. All the thank yous, all the prayers, all the hopes that humans whispered into space. Sometimes it felt like too much, the weight of being the guardian of an entire species, of being the thing that kept them safe. She had not asked for this. She had just wanted to survive, to make the Crevassi pay for what they had done, but somehow she had become more than that. She had become a symbol, a protector, a reason for other species to think twice before threatening humanity. Lisa looked at her hands. They still glowed faintly with quantum energy. She had learned to control it better now, to hide it when she wanted. But it was always there, a reminder of what she had become, of what she could never stop being. She thought about her old life sometimes, about the person she had been before the attack. Commander Lisa Kane, who had a crew and a ship and a simple mission. That person was gone now, dead in a way, replaced by something new. But maybe that was okay. Maybe that person had to die so that humanity could live, so that her crew's sacrifice would not be in vain, so that no other commander would have to watch their people die while aliens laughed. Lisa closed her eyes and reached out with her quantum senses. She could feel human ships scattered across light years, thousands of them, tens of thousands. All those people living and working among the stars, all those dreams and hopes and futures, they were safe because of her. Not completely safe. Space would always be dangerous, but safer than they would have been without her. That had to count for something. She opened her eyes and smiled slightly. It was a sad smile, but it was real. She had found purpose in her pain, meaning in her transformation. She had become exactly what humanity needed. A guardian who never slept, a protector who could not be defeated, a warning to anyone who thought humans were easy prey, and she would keep doing this. For as long as her power lasted, for as long as humanity needed her, she would be the ghost in the darkness, the light that appeared when hope was fading, the force that turned the tide when all seemed lost, because that was what humans did. They adapted. They survived. They turned their weakness into strength and their pain into power. And sometimes, when they were broken badly enough, they became something the galaxy had never seen before. Lisa looked up at the stars. There were so many of them, so much space to explore, so many threats to watch for, but she was not afraid. She had already faced the worst thing that could happen to her. She had died and been reborn. She had lost everything and gained something impossible. She was ready for whatever came next. The quantum energy flared around her. She thought about where she was needed most. Her senses told her about a research station having engine trouble, about a colony ship that had gone off course, about a diplomatic mission that was heading into potentially hostile territory. So much to do. So many people to protect, but she could do it. She had the power. She had the will. And most importantly, she had the reason. Her crew had died believing in humanity's future among the stars. She would make sure that future was real. She would make sure their sacrifice meant something. Every human who traveled safely through space was a testament to what Danny and the others had died for. Lisa chose her destination. The colony ship needed help first. Their navigation systems had failed, and they were drifting toward an asteroid field. She could fix that. She could guide them to safety. She reached out and grabbed the fabric of space-time. She pulled herself through it like someone pulling themselves up a rope. In an instant, she crossed thousands of light years. Distance meant nothing to her anymore. She existed everywhere and nowhere at once. The colony ship appeared ahead of her. She could see the fear on the faces of the crew through the viewports. They did not know what to do. They thought they were going to die, but they were wrong. Because Lisa was here now, and while she lived, no human would face the darkness alone. She reached out with her power and gently pushed the ship away from the asteroids. She sent a pulse of quantum energy into their navigation computer, fixing the damaged systems. The ship's course corrected. The danger passed. The crew cheered. They would tell stories about this for years. About the blue light that saved them. About the quantum guardian who watched over all humans in space. Lisa did not stay to hear their thanks. She was already moving to the next crisis. The next problem that needed solving. The next group of humans who needed protecting. This was her life now. This was her purpose. And strange as it was, tragic as her transformation had been, she would not change it, because she had become something more than human. She had become hope itself, and hope was something humanity would always need. Across the galaxy, in council chambers and military headquarters and pirate dens, beings of 100 different species whispered about her, about the human who could not die, who could tear apart fleets, who appeared wherever her people were threatened. Some called her a myth. Others called her a weapon. A few called her a monster. But humans had a different name for her. They called her their guardian, their protector. The proof that humanity belonged among the stars. The answer to anyone who thought humans were too weak to survive in the vast darkness of space. They called her Commander Lisa Kane. And they remembered. They remembered that weakness was not the same as defeat. That being broken was not the same as being finished. That sometimes the smallest, most fragile creature could become the most dangerous when pushed to the edge. And they looked up at the stars without fear. Because they knew that somewhere out there, in the darkness between worlds, their guardian was watching, ready to respond, ready to fight, ready to prove once again that humanity would never be prey, that they would always rise, always fight back, always become stronger than those who tried to break them. That was the legacy of the Horizon's Edge. That was the gift of Lisa Kane's sacrifice and transformation. That was why humans could travel the stars with their heads held high, because they had learned the most important lesson of all, the lesson that the Crevassi had paid such a terrible price to teach them. Never underestimate something just because it can be broken. Because sometimes when it rises from the